Hello and welcome. I want to share a little something with you that I derived from Julius Evola's The Metaphysics of Sex. Now, sex can be a powerful path towards experiencing presence. That presence can be within you, outside of you, but the idea of presence is something, it is an intelligence that may occasionally brush your mind. And this comes from the very beginning of Evola's book. And it is that the transcendent aspect of physical love lies within orgasm. While love experienced through companionship bears its own fruit, it lacks the depth of orgasm. And the power of sexual love lies within the primordial experience. Now that may evoke a lot of images within your mind. The orgasm itself, what does that mean that the orgasm can be a transcendent experience? What does that mean that love through companionship has its own means? And what about this power of sexual love that lies within the primordial experience? Well, what is transcendent and its relation to sex? However, before we can do that, we must also consider the sexual act of copulation, which many of us are familiar with. But I want you to not focus on the act itself. Dismiss the idea of insemination and dismiss the idea of the release of emotional tension and of that tension associated with desire and want, and ask yourself, what is the lasting effect of physical love? Yes, you climax and you bask in the release. It's like an energy that you just kind of bask in. You could call it a glow, a light, and as you come down from it, it's like a high. You know, as you come down from the high, you begin to anticipate the next high or the next encounter. And when we were young, this was all that mattered. However, as we mature in life and journey into the far reaches of spiritual writings in an attempt to justify our existence and to discover our purpose, these sexual encounters may take on a more subliminal meaning, a more hidden meaning. I don't want to say agenda, but a hidden meaning. Now, transcendence is to move beyond the ordinary. So the idea of the transcendent act of physical love lies within orgasm, means that climax, the orgasm, is more than a culmination. It is not the end. It is a point of transition if we can but open the door. See, we have to We have to move beyond the sensation of release and move into the experience itself. Now, this is not something that is easily done. For the most part, we stumble into it. I stumbled into it because I have experienced the transcendence of orgasm. And I could use all kinds of metaphors to explain it and such, but first, let's come back to this. We read spiritual writings. And why do we read them? We want direction. We want context to what it is that we are experiencing. And unless we are reading something of a similar experience, what the author is sharing with us typically flies over our head because we have no reference points. Thus, the idea of a transcendent aspect of physical love can just as easily escape us. So, we read spiritual writings to give us direction. And I've come across numerous writings that tell us to abstain from life in a variety of ways. You must separate yourself from life. Become a monk. Separate yourself from the doldrums of life. Abstain from sex. Abstain from meats. Abstain from drink. Abstain from this. Abstain from women. Abstain. All of this separation. And in my thinking, in my beliefs, it moves us further and further away from what it is that we are seeking, because it separates us from life. And whatever separates us from life separates us from nature. So, you may be asking, then what is life? And life is not this grand spectacle that we read in novels or watch in the cinemas. Life is the very activities we seek to divert ourselves from. It's mowing the yard, weeding the garden, washing the dishes, sweeping the floors, driving back and forth to work. The work itself, life is all these little tedious events that we feel forced to participate in. Life is not the dramatic or the novel experience. Those are the distractions that these spiritual writers are telling us to extricate ourselves from. Because if we're chasing the next high, the next orgasm, the next grand experience, the next brush with death, then we have truly missed everything about life. Only the mundane activities of struggle and joy, and those events in between struggle and joy, usher us forward on a path of discovery. Because if you are trying to discover the secret of life, you're going to miss it, because the secret of life is in the details. And you may be asking, how does physical love aid me in my quest of self-discovery, in my quest of discovering, well, for you, it might be discovering God, or discovering the divine, or the true self, the authentic self, the Christ self. It's like everything else. Along your sojourn of discovery and awakening, you might begin to sense a continuity, a rhythm that gently flows beneath the intimacy we have cultivated with ourselves. Yes, with ourselves. And as we cultivate that intimacy with ourselves, we cultivate an intimacy with others through our relationships with them. Now, don't mistake intimacy with sex, because that's not it. Intimacy is not sex. Intimacy is sharing yourself. And we share ourselves in a variety of ways, not just through sex, through conversation, through companionship, physical interaction, touch. The simple act of touch creates a tiny bubble of intimacy. And eventually you begin to realize that. It creates this sensation within us. And we want to experience this sensation again, even though we do not understand what the meaning is with this sensation. We are sensual beings. There's a reason for that. And it's not sensuality that distracts us from whatever spiritual path you happen to be on, or whatever you believe your goal is. There was a time when I believed that goal was to become immersed in God, since my path is moved either in a different direction or beyond that. It's hard to say, but this idea of intimacy is a sensation. Everything begins as a sensation. The first time you encounter what you might call the divine within, it is a sensation. When you feel an angel, if you want to call them that, or the presence of another, a spirit or soul, if you want to call them that, it is a sensation. We depend on those sensations. The sensual aspect is not the body. The sensual aspect is the mind. Everything is interpreted through the mind. Thus, you can sense the presence of another when your eyes are closed. Thus, you can sense the field that moves around you. Let me see here. There we go. Let me stir it up a little bit. There we go. Yes. Well, to you, you just see my hand moving along my arm. But you try it. Rub your hands together like that, especially, and if there are two of you do that, or do it with a friend sometime. Just rub your hands together, stir up that field that is around you, and then reach for that sensation of resistance, that slight resistance, and then try it with another. That is the sensation of another, or a presence that is near you. And those presence, that presence that is you may be sensing, need not be of a physical nature, of a corporeal nature. They could be of a intangible nature, a spirit, a soul, an intelligence. So you have these sensations, and you want to seek it out, to embrace it, and then finally to merge with it. That is how we transcend the common life and all that exists with it. We embrace the common life. We observe the common life. And in that observation and embracing, we begin to understand that common life, and we become immersed in it. So when we transcend the sensations of love, orgasm not only opens the door, but it can carry us across the threshold. Yes, our connection with the one we are embracing, that we are having this sensual experience with, yes, it deepens. But there is more. There is more. You, or if you're fortunate, the two of you can move beyond that simple culmination of climax and those tiny, short-lived pleasures. You can experience this great release of orgasm and enhance your experience of life. Yes. And in my experiences of this type of I don't know what to call it, this type of conscious expansion, I have seen the lattice work of the universe, the lattice work of life, the connection of beings, entities, I don't know what else to call it. I don't call them angels or spirits or souls. I call it the various aspects of life as it expands and contracts, grows and decays at the same time. I discovered why the lotus or the rose, not the tea roses or the hybrids, but the rose, the floribundas and such with the many petals. I've discovered why they use those to represent the universe, because that's what it might appear as when you see the lattice work, the support, the logos of life. You can experience the essence of another. You can see how their field, their resonant fields, their aura, their biofield shapes, fluctuates, the form it takes as a representation of themselves. Sometimes it's a butterfly, sometimes it's a web, other times it could be a spider. These are the experiences I have had when I have been able to move past the orgasm itself. And these experiences are very, very short. So when you transcend the sensations of physical love, you risk exposing yourself to a collective presence that may supersede what is referred to as God. You may discover there is something more than what is written of. You risk expanding your consciousness to more than what you expect to find. You risk discovering that the orgasm you have become accustomed to lacks depth. And this experience that orgasm ushers you towards may introduce you to the primal self. Now, I'm not talking about this supernatural being or returning to your first incarnation. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the primal self as being the first encounter with completeness, with life itself. And the first time you have this experience, this encounter, it will swallow you, it will overwhelm you, and it will take weeks, maybe even months, just to grasp the surface of the encounter, the meaning behind it. At first, you will be lost in the sensation itself, and you will want to recreate it. And eventually, you will discover that this is not the activity that transports you to this destination, to this expansion. You will discover that it is the ability to focus your mind that creates the door that allows you to open it and cross the threshold. There is far more power to the sexual act of lovemaking than one may suspect. It is one of many entrances into the primordial landscape, the sensation of the underlying structure of life, the completeness, the wholeness. It is not about good and evil. It is about completion. It is an essence. And it is this essence, not of yourself or of the universe. It is merely an essence to become immersed within. I don't know if this was useful. I don't know if this gave you a perspective or even an idea. But I do hope it was worthwhile for attending to this presentation. If you like, take a moment, like the video, subscribe. But I want to wish you a beautiful experience of the day that is yet to unfold. Thank you.